Joining us to put the day's market moves into perspective is Viv Govender from Rand Swiss Offshore. Thank you so much for your time, Viv. Quite a mixed picture that we are seeing there globally, but largely in the red as we are seeing those markets pausing on that rally that we started seeing last month. And what I actually want to zoom into is the commodities on the JSE, those carrying most of those losses there. What is up with the commodities today?
Yeah, look, I mean, we have a couple of issues happening in our mining sector. Of course, we know about the local issues with regards to Transnet and obviously Eskom to a certain extent, but I think Transnet is going to become a major problem for anything trying to be exported or in fact even imported into South Africa. And also, at the moment, we are seeing a weakening in China that I think is quite troublesome. We sort of downgrade control for them as well. So I do think that in terms of the overall picture for commodities at the moment, it's local and international problems conspiring to make share prices fall.
Yeah. Viv, I mean, we're heading towards year end as well, where we get to take stock of economic growth or contraction, depending on where you are looking. And you mentioned China, and of course, they did get that government credit downgrade from Moody's, but keeping its sovereign bonds credit rating the same. And I'm wondering if, you know, that kind of signals could signal a weakness in the economic growth that we could see for the full year there in China.
Yeah, look, I mean, when it comes to China at the moment, I do think that they have some really serious long-term structural issues that they've got to solve. And I don't know, basically what's going to be happening with regards to, you know, whether they're going to be able to do it or not. I mean, at the moment, it does seem that they are in a bit of a pickle when it comes to leadership. They don't really have a really dedicated leadership that's really focused on economic growth at the moment. There's other things that they're trying to push out, and I think that's, you know, a really troublesome feature for the country going forward. Especially, like I said, they have structural issues around demographics, around the makeup of that economy. They focus on, you know, the property sector. Their troubles with the U.S. regarding, you know, imports. Yet this week again, towards a senior official in the Biden administration came out and said, you know, if they find something that they think is a problem in terms of exports to China, they'll come out in the 24 hours and stop it with regarding chip exports. So yeah, this is a country that has some serious issues, and yet I don't know if the government is focusing on it as much as it should be.
Yeah. Well, talking about economic growth, we also did get our third quarter GDP print out today. We did see a contraction there of 0.2% in the third quarter. How bad is this bad news story?
Look, it's a little less bad than expected. So we were expecting a bit of a pullback. But, you know, in terms of the overall thing, it was pretty widespread. We saw mining, manufacturing, agriculture, you know, sort of all under pressure. You know, and these are things that I think are important in the country, because I mean, things like manufacturing, where you hopefully are going to be developing to absorb, you know, a high level of unemployed people in the country. So yeah, I think it was the majority of basically sectors were under pressure in terms of you know, the pullback. And this is despite the fact that we did see, for instance, less load shedding for that period than we did for, you know, the previous period. So yeah, the economy is under a bit of trouble at the moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, talking about economic growth, and of course, we have to talk about the companies that do operate under this environment. And a company that did come out with numbers today was Transaction Capital, going from a profit to a loss. Of course, we know the issues surrounding SA Taxi and yeah, still, you know, a lot of pressure when it comes to that business. Of course, they are embarking on a restructuring of that SA Taxi business, but also talking about thinking of unbundling and separately listing We Buy Cars. Let's first get to those numbers. What did you make of those numbers? We also did see investors plowing into the stock. It was up about 13% at some point. How bad or less bad were those numbers?
Well, I mean, I think the market's been punishing the stock quite dramatically over the last, like, year to date, it's down about, say, 76%. So, I mean, it's a quarter of its price at the start of the year. So it is under a bit of pressure. And so, yeah, we do have, you know, bad numbers coming through, but the market's really priced in like a 3/4 fall in terms of your share price. It has to be spectacularly bad to push it down when you're lower. And so, yeah, the market did react positively to the results today, up, you know, like almost 10%. You know, it has been up over the last month about, say, 40%. So the market is trying to basically, you know, push the share price up, but still, like, even after all these moves, it's still down, like, you know, significantly for the year. And I do think that, you know, there are issues going forward. But prices are down, like I said, 76% for the year. You have to see some seriously bad news to push it up much further.
Yeah, and we buy cars. I mean, we have seen, those earnings coming down from the high base that we saw in 2022, but also there was an improvement in the second half of the financial year. Now they're saying that they're thinking of unbundling and separately listing We Buy Cars. What would you make of that move at this point with this kind of earnings profile that we are seeing there on We Buy Cars?
Yeah, look, I think it's probably good news. The company has over 30 billion in terms of debt. If you unbundle, it's a chance to basically, separate the businesses, but also use some of the proceeds for the unbundling, because the unbundle, you sell some of the shares that you have to basically pay down some of the debt. And I think that's one of the reasons also the market is looking at these at the company positively at the moment.
All right. Well, Viv, let's get to your stock pick for today. What will it be?
It's Alphabet again. Look, they delayed the Gemini list, launch from this month till next month. So it's a bit of a disappointing bit of news. But looking at what we expect to come out from the company over the next little while, I think there's still a huge amount of potential in Alphabet. They've come up with some really interesting things from the DeepMind unit recently, and I do think that it does appear that they are trying to catch up with some of the Microsoft's advances in their sector. And I'm really positive about Gemini, which does launch next month, even though it's a month late.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your analysis on what has been driving the markets today, Viv. That was Viv Govender from Rand Swiss Offshore.